In this video, I want to continue talking about some of the unaddressed aspects that I was trying to introduce towards the tail end of the hydroponics farming related initiatives that have been started by a couple in Delhi, which have given them a successful hydroponics farming experience. And like that, not just simply these people who have practice hydroponics, there are multiple hydroponics farmers that have come into existence in current years to solve our farming and food insecurity related problems. Same way, there are people who are also doing rooftop farming, whose example I forgot to provide in the previous video, but I will link the rooftop farming related initiative that has been started in Oakland in California, US, where because in Oakland there is a lot of population group who are unhealthy, who have food insecurity, who are jobless, who are addicts, who have multiple health issues and challenges. At the time, because of that reason, they are growing food in a large scale in a rooftop, where after growing the food in a rooftop of an office building, they are supplying that food to poorer people. But while you are trying to solve a food insecurity problem, there is another aspect to this food insecurity related problem, which most people, when they are doing now these modern techniques of farming, which are showing to be really successful and generating a lot of income for these people currently, what most of those people who are generating and have been successful in their farming for, let's say, 5 years, 2 years, 10 years, and have introduced some different kinds of farming like rooftop farming, like hydroponics farming, or multi-layered farming, or crop rotations where the rotations are happening every few weeks. All of these kinds of farmings have come up in the last few decades or few years in earthly existence, because all of these are definitely necessary practices that farming has to inculcate in our life. But in the farming initiatives lies the story of health and balance in life, that is both important for farming initiatives as well as for our personal life experiences related to health, and also not simply just the physical health that humans perceive is good health, but all elements of health that many a times people, in the quest to only gain food, gather food, have money to buy food, have money to have some luxuries in life, forget that health isn't just simply about food or clothing or property or money or gold or land or this is just the first basic level, which if you look at Maslow's law of needs, needs of hierarchy, you will see that food, clothing, shelter, property, assets, these are all the first few levels of Maslow's law of hierarchy of needs. But in actuality, if you really want to give a balanced, healthy living to anyone, food is just one element, and food also has to be done with the right intent, right understanding. Otherwise, food also, even if you produce mass scale amounts of a lot of food and were able to make a lot of money from producing a lot of food, doesn't mean that you actually did a completely good job of creating the solution to food insecurity problem. You just created the first steps to solving food insecurity. This is what people who are awakening to some problems now or challenges now in their safe practices, profitable practices, practices that helped in turning something like a arid land into a good fertile land. All of them have to wake up to the next level of development that they have to do in order to actually evolve from the practice that they are doing. Because That is the reason why sometimes challenges happen, problems happen. Some things that we thought were successful is not really truly successful at a deeper level until we actually start doing the true elements of success, or introducing the true elements needed to make something actually a quality success. Because in the quest for running after quantity, people sometimes quantity and gain, people sometimes compromise quality, don't understand when quality is getting compromised, don't realize that when initiative, that is even a right initiative, if not done in the right balancing aspects related to that initiative, will also sometimes end up causing failure and problems. So with the hydroponics, this is the first issue is the mold related issue. So let's say there are, if like how I suggested in my previous video, if you are doing hydroponics farming and you have realized that there is mold growing in your products, or your customers are complaining about mold related issues, you have to if your customers are complaining about mold issues, or you are realizing about the mold poisoning related issues, do you have to resolve the problem, or do you have to live in denial that just because as a hydroponics farmer you made lakhs of money a few years back, or in the last few years you made a lot of money and many people appreciated you for solving the food insecurity problem because you were doing hydroponics and growing so much of lettuce or some green leafy vegetable, that's why you are successful, so you don't need to listen to the complaints? If you do that, are you going to resolve the food insecurity problem that you started to actually meaningfully want to resolve when you started the hydroponics farming? Or are you going to be given the success that is necessary for someone to continue evolving in the right ways according to the profession they are choosing to now practice, if you don't realize what is the next step you have to learn in your profession? Because when I said about my studies, the reason why I said about my studies is, while I, from 1 to 10th or 1 to 12th or 1 to even a bachelor's degree, it is very important that if you measure your success by thinking that getting a degree and having like top ranking in your university or being among the top 10 in your class was something that proved that you are truly competent in that field, is that where your true competency shows up. It just shows that you have a potential to be truly competent in your field. But the person who truly shows up to be competent in their field is someone who practically knows how to inculcate all they learned all through their bachelor's degree into the next things that they will do in their life. So if they do a master's degree, if they do a PhD, if they become a teacher, if they become a researcher, if they become a doctor, if they become an engineer, if they become whatever they are becoming next, even if they become a housewife, at that time also their degree and the influence of the degree that they gained happens in the practices and the practical aspects at which you apply what you have learned. And it also, that's why only when I say in some of my videos that people who do not have a degree also have some value in their life, is because the practical applicability of how you apply some knowledge doesn't simply come from degrees, it also comes from life experiences. So there are farmers who may have zero degree related to farming, zero degree related to botany or any other farming related fields, who can still be good at doing some food industry related work if they have good practical understanding of what is health safe, what is health aligned, what is health misaligned. So that is more important. Doing your work well is more important. Understanding the extent at which the work needs to be done well is more important than simply holding a degree or getting profits from an initiative that you started without even having a degree about it, but an initiative which at the beginning will give you success if it was a needed initiative to be done, but after a while of few years of practice of that initiative, if that initiative needs to be tweaked, which is invariably going to happen, because earth life is a adaptive life, like how our body is very adaptive to different conditions related to health, our lifestyle on earth is also meant to be very adaptive. So you will have to, that is the core necessity of us being on earth, that you have to understand how to balance life according to the conditions specific to your life. And many people do not understand this changes that they have to keep doing even when they are successful or considered successful, or are seeing a lot of profitability or a mass quantity of something that they have done very successfully, which they perceive as success. But eventually someday what you perceive as success may not actually be a successful thing, which is where the reason why when pesticides were earlier used in food, what was the reason for using pesticide? Let's say you had a land area where you had 100 trees and 10 or 20 trees were dying because of some disease, that you saw that they were dying because pests were coming and eating your fruits and vegetables and everything. And because and let's say it's a fruit garden, so in the fruit plantation they ate all your fruits, 20 of your trees fruits completely got destroyed and the trees just simply died, and the other 80 that were remaining, in that also you were seeing these pests are coming and invading your trees. Now you assume that the pest coming and invading your trees meant that loss is happening. Why? Because you have equated success to what? And let's say you've been doing farming for 10-20 years, and as a farmer, or even 2-3 years, as a farmer, every farmer is equating their success to what? They are equating their success to the quantity of the fruits they will produce in that land, because all farmers or many farmers need a livelihood from it. So because they need a livelihood from it, or they have set a target that I have to become like if I have invested a couple of lakhs in this farm, I want to now make more than the number of lakhs I have invested in that farm. And when you are not making more lakhs than the number of lakhs you have invested, you consider yourself to be a failure, or you start consider yourself to be a failure when you are not able to make you're only making 2-3 lakhs of produce and selling 2-3 lakhs, whereas your competitor or your friend or your family who is also doing the same kind of farming is getting 10 times more lakhs in money or producing 10 times more amount of food. At that time, that is where humans start going wrong. When you start comparing, when you don't understand why that comparison should not be done, when you also don't understand that simply because someone is making more money or selling more fruits, or their garden doesn't have any diseased plants, means that they are successful as a farmer. There could be multiple reasons why they are successful, and there could be multiple reasons for why your garden is not being successful. And that is the same thing that, and in the case of the two farmers in part 1 that I was talking about, who did hydroponics farming, who converted arid land into gardening activities that are related to organic farming, in both their cases they had land and life circumstances that were not conducive to good farming conditions. So they did transcend one element of a challenge that they were facing in their life, that this land is not conducive to healthy growth of plants, but they outskirted the issue by doing something which has now resulted in that land which was not able to give any good quality food, now they are able to get some good quality food. One of them did it by how? They did it by doing organic farming, composting activities. So they enrich the soil of that area and are likely keeping the air pollution relatively pollution free by not using pesticides. And that's why for the Mexico farmer, he is getting or not farmer, but for their farming activities, they are able to get some good quality produce by enriching the soil in certain soil supportive ways and helping in keeping the air pollution low by not engaging in pest control activities that can be air pollution increasing, that can be health harming. But in their video also there were signs of disease showing up in the peppers. In the tail end of the video you will see those orangish peppers were looking very grayish in color, blackish in color, and these are all signs and symptoms of when disease is occurring in a plant. Now the more you do farming activities, the more you will get attuned to what is a good fruit, what is a bad fruit, what is a good vegetable, what is a bad vegetable, what is good produce, what is bad produce. Not simply from the looks, it has to come from the looks, from the smell, from the taste, from the cross-sectional view of it, which is what I was talking about with the tomatoes. Some tomatoes, when I take a cross-section, like when you cut your tomatoes in round slices for a salad, in India some salads we make by cutting tomatoes and cucumbers in round shapes. Now if you are very mindful and health conscious and are going towards mindfulness and health consciousness, even if you are not a farmer, even if you are not a botanist, even if you are not doing any research work related to plant activities, but if you are a mindful cook, mindful eater, mindful person, you can actually, from just the cross-sectional view of a tomato, cross-sectional view of a cucumber, from the smell of a tomato, from the view of a cucumber, from the texture of how the tomatoes seeds and skin are looking, or the cucumbers skin and seeds are looking, from the taste of it, from all these elements related to a fruit or something that you are consuming as a person, you will understand when it is good quality food, when it is bad quality food, when it is toxic food, when it is harmful food, when it is nutritious food, when it is health harming food. So all these different things you will start to understand, because the more mindfulness you develop, you become attuned to the food also you are consuming. It depends on what level of mindfulness you have developed in your life, and that mindfulness cannot happen in our life when we are busy rushing in our lives. So when you're rushing all the time, you're not retired, you're not tired, you're not diseased, you're not resting, you're not taking the time to rest, you're not taking the time to meditate, you're not taking the time to do any activities which is not constantly pushing you to gain, and you're doing the opposite, that is when you actually get the time to realize what I am making in these videos. I got the time to rest from work when I got extremely burnt out. I couldn't work anymore. I couldn't push myself to do any functional professional work. But does it mean that all the work and all the studying I did prior to that went to waste? No, that work doesn't go to waste if even in my resting phase that work has some reason and I am understanding something related to work even in my resting phase. So I had many years of resting phase since about 2018, and in that 2018 to now, the years and decades of not decades but years of actually decades also I can say, but my decade total is coming from since childhood days. Every few years, if I count the couple of months or couple of days when I took rest, took vacation, didn't do any professional work, had some gaps in my professional degrees, between my professional degrees, all of those were resting phases of my life in some way or the other. But because I had that resting phase, because I was not having this normalized rush lifestyle or quantity based driven lifestyle of quantity of success, quantity, I did have quantity of degrees, but I was not pursuing a large quantity of degrees because I wanted to compete against anyone. I was pursuing the degrees for different reasons. Sometimes I was pursuing it because it was necessity, I had to have a degree. Then I pursued a degree because it was not simply a necessity, but I liked that degree program, that's why I pursued the degree. Then I pursued some degrees where I thought that I liked it and I should pursue it, and then I realized while pursuing it, maybe this is not exactly the right thing I should have pursued. So all these different experiences have happened throughout my life about learning. So which is what learning is about. You will learn certain things very beautifully because it is aligned with your personality, aligned with your nature, aligned with your life purpose. And then there are many things you will not learn properly or not understand deeply or properly because it's not aligned with your nature, because it is not aligned with your development, or because you were not meant to do it, but someone else has to do it, or you were meant to collaborate with a couple of people to do that work, and they have to be all with the right mindset to do that work in order for that work to truly become successful. And this is where many hydroponic farmers, rooftop gardeners, people who are doing multi-layered farming practices are not realizing where their failure is starting to show in their projects, because they do not understand. And it is okay to be unaware, because even if you were at a aligned path with your future and present life, and you got the success, because that success was necessary to give you encouragement that you are in a aligned path. Because let's say I am doing a degree program and it is aligned with my future or present path, life journey, and I'm succeeding at it, will I feel nice about it when I'm succeeding at a degree program that is aligned with me? Or when I'm doing a work that is aligned with my personality, aligned with my future life, if I do that work, I will get that satisfaction from that work and I will enjoy doing it. So getting praise, getting being in the top 10% of your class, or doing something and really enjoying it, or when doing something not only enjoying it but getting accolades and praise from multiple people for doing it well, or getting, when you're doing gardening and farming, getting a lot of bounty from your farming activities, all is relevant measure to get the encouragement that you are on the right path. But that is not the necessary and sufficient condition for you to be actually on a right path after a few years of you having done something well for a while. And I can't conceptually explain it to anyone who doesn't understand that quantity is not the only important factor. Gain, praise, money, profitability is not the only important factor of life. So in the rooftop gardening experiences, the reason why they are succeeding in their rooftop gardening is partly because they have let go and shed some of these parameters related to gain. They are trying to shed it. Now they are not getting the investors who have also shed that paradigm. But until they get the investors or initiatives that will support them, what they are trying to do with their rooftop gardening partly is letting go of the belief that profit is required. That's why they are giving away the food to food insecure places, people who are poor. That one part they have started doing. But they still need funding, because when we are on a earth where money is needed to drive the economic process of something, a little bit of getting investment from the right people is needed. But they can also realize, these people who are doing the rooftop gardening, that instead of, if a $1 million investor is not giving you $1 million to invest the money for the project you want to do, can you do this at a and you are thinking, okay, let's go to the government and get government support. But let's say an investor also didn't invest, or an investor invested very less money, or the government also didn't invest, or the government invested very less money, or gave you very limited resources. At that time, there could be a reason behind you having limited resources. And that reason could possibly be that, what if instead of doing rooftop gardening, now you have to translate that rooftop gardening skills that you have learned at a land area level? Or instead of doing it in a rooftop, how about doing it in the balconies of those homes where food insecurity is present? Or there could be some other direction also you have to explore, like in the rooftop gardening with their lavender. I felt their lavender doesn't look healthy, and that is my intuition telling me the lavender doesn't look healthy. If I smell it, if I touch it, I will know better whether it's allergenic. Because for me personally with lavender, I'll tell you this tidbit. Lavender theoretically is considered to be a very calming plant, and lavender extract or lavender tea have been known in the past that if you consume lavender extract or lavender tea, it will be very soothing and calming to your nerves, it will be soothing for your skin. But my personal experience with lavender has shown that there are certain companies that who were saying they're using organic plant extracts for perfuming their children's wipes. Now in this baby wipes, and I have told you in my previous videos that I do use baby wipes. So when I did used to use, right now I'm not using them because I was getting heightened allergies from all the brands I tried, and then I stopped using them. Or very rarely, absolutely there's no other alternative, I might use them. But with those wipes, which were the reason why I was getting, even if they were saying they have infused it with organic plant-based extracts to scent that wipe, and they were using things like lavender, they were using aloe vera, they were using lotus extract, all these natural plants were the sources that they are claiming they are using, and it is possible they were actually using those natural plant products. But now if that plant is being raised in a garden where, let's say, the water has some chemical pollution in it, that chemical pollution will translate into the quality of the extract that can be infused out of that lavender extract. Like in order to get lavender scent from a lavender flower, you are likely, like, if I don't know if I will find that link, but I saw a link of how perfumes are made from rose in a distillery. And when perfumes are made from rose petals, they're putting all the rose petals in a pot and then putting high temperature pressure heating, and the scent that is coming out from the spout of the pot, that scent is then trapped in pipes and then collected, and then the perfume will be there with that rose smell. Similarly, like that rose extract, lavender extract, any flower extract will have some similar steps of processes, and I don't know all the details of how you get a lavender extract, rose extract, but theoretically some of those details I had studied 20-30 years back, 20-25 years back in my pharmacy school days. So principally I understand how the extraction can be happening. So whichever way it is getting extracted, after the extraction, if in the flower that source there was some chemical contamination in the flower source, that chemical contamination, when at microscopic levels, will not bother most of the population. But the moment the chemical contamination in it starts increasing slowly over time, the every level of degree of increase in the contamination that happens with that simple thing like a lavender flower or a rose flower eventually will end up making that lavender or rose flower itself or its extract very allergic to the person using it. And now I have mentioned in the past that I have allergies to different products, and I realized about lavender extract almost 25 years back when I used to live in US, that when I had used products with lavender in their scent, I was not finding lavender to be calming at all, because the problems related to farming that are causing the lavender to give some allergic response or give some inflammation in my body as a result of a consequence of an allergy developing in my body from consuming a product that my body is considering as a health harming thing. What starts happening with my health when I am consuming or applying a lotion with lavender extract in it, or I am using a baby wipe with lavender extract in it, or even I am just, you get these small bottles of nature's remedy related, naturopathy related essential oils also in stores in US. So when I'm just smelling a testing sample of a lavender extract, I always used to find it not calming. Instead, it was causing the opposite of calming responses. because when something is not health aligned with you, anything, and it's not the lavender. So now at that time, what is the distinction I didn't make at that time, but now after years of experience with different kinds of allergies, now I finally understand that yes, while at the purest level, when raised at the best quality level, a lavender extract might indeed calm your nerves. But if any of the steps at which the lavender is being grown, or while it is being processed, or while it is being stored, at a time if any element of other chemical particulate matter or other things start manifesting in with the lavender extract or any other flower extract, then that same product that could have been potentially calming may not be calming, and instead can end up causing health harm in our body. Okay, so this is how, when I say I get headaches with perfumes, allergic responses with perfumes, have some health problems with perfumes or perfumed products, it is because it may not be that the rose essence itself or the lavender essence or some other flower itself which is the root cause of the problem, but the oil base in it in which the perfume is made, the 10 other ingredients that the perfume is using to just store the one drop of rose oil or lavender oil or mogra oil or different kinds of oil, whatever it is that is being used in that product, that is when our health harm starts showing up. And one person will think that I have allergy to lavender, when the allergy is not actually to pure lavender, but the allergy is to the ingredient in that lavender or the lavender product that you are using. And it can maybe not simply be the lavender but other ingredients in that product. So that's why also sometimes, when people have nuts allergies, there are some people who get allergy to only one nut. There are some people who get allergies to 10 nuts. There are some people who have allergies when they consume a lot of nuts, but if they consume only one nut, they don't get allergy. But herein again lies how do you distinguish this allergy? Same way, because someone who may have allergy to one nut, sometimes you can have allergy to that nut, because as in case of peanut allergies, what people found was it was the microbe present in the peanut that can give you an allergy. That's why they have also done some testing which has shown that if a child is given small amount of that poisonous toxin containing peanuts also, slowly over time, and the toxicity is built up slowly in their body over time, they will not get the allergy versus a child who has never been exposed to a little bit also of toxins. And that's why also you will see, like if I have lived in India, I have much more resilience about Indian health conditions if I have lived in this country for many years, whereas if a foreigner who has never lived according to the poor health supportive conditions of Indian life, when they come to India, immediately sometimes they can fall sick from consuming something in India. Why? Because they are not used to the toxin levels of Indian water, Indian air, Indian food. So immediately you will get sick. And for me, this reverse sickness also used to happen when I lived in a developed country also. So when I used to have the issue with constipation and diarrhea, when I used to travel from India to US to India. Why was I getting constipation issue when I was traveling from India to US? Was because I didn't know this at that time, but now I am correlating it that in the state where I used to live, what was the measure? There are many drugs that are given to patients both at the legal level, and there are illegal drug activities also that happen in that state. So both legal and illegal drugs that are present and used by the population of that state causes the water of that area to have some amount of that poison in their water supply. And when I'm living for 1 month in India and going back to US, now those drugs that are consumed regularly by the patients there, the patients have got used to the water level there. Even I get used to the water with a little microscopic amount of some water pollution there, and I do not get constipation when I live in that state for 2-3 years continuously. But the moment I go from different water environment in India, and at that time I used to think maybe in India there is a lot of microbes in the water, and in US that is also there. The microbes will not also be there in the US water. So both the microbes that are there in Indian water that are supporting my body to digest my food and give me good poop health, that is also causing me to have less and have more constipation in US, because those microbes are now absent when I traveling from India to US. So a couple of times after traveling from India to US I would get constipation issues. But the second aspect, the first aspect was the microbe that is causing the constipation, but the second aspect, which I didn't realize back then but which came to me when, not in the initial years I was practicing as a pharmacist in US, but slowly when I started practicing as a pharmacist and I started seeing what is data also while as a pharmacist as well as a healthcare professional, administration professional, when I have to analyze the data related to what is happening with the population health, all of these data finally showed me that in our state where I used to live in US, the use of certain drugs that can cause constipation is high. So if you use a certain number of drugs that can cause constipation, and that drugs content in your overall population is high, that drug can eventually end up in microscopic or very nano amounts in your blood supply and in your body. So because even if you never took that one or two particular drugs that cause constipation, someday you can still have a side effect of that constipation from that drug if that drug was present in your local water supply and you were not using filtration devices, or the city is not using filtration systems to filter out the drugs from their water supply. So you will invariably have some health issues from the nanoparticles, microparticles of whatever is increasingly used by a population in a particular area. And the same thing if now you are doing farming activities and that chemical in your water, it could be 1 chemical, 10 chemical, 100 chemicals, depending on where the chemicals are coming from. It can come from medicine, it can come from chemicals used in your daily life, it can come from chemicals used in farming. All of these are responsible for causing the farming activities to be impacted as well if the water used for the farming activities is not the right quality. So let's say now this example of the hydroponics farmer or even of the farmer in Mexico, for both of them some indicators of the farming not completely been aligned yet with health safe parameters is starting to show up. With the couple, I don't know what is trying to show up because it is just an article and I have not gone and talked with them, but I can still, like I already told you, one potential area is the mold poisoning that will start showing up in their life, because mold, while mold does end up in cooling, mold also if in large amounts can end up with health harm. So that potential health harm trajectory will unfold for them if they are not careful with the hydroponics that they are doing in their home. Okay, so for them as well as any hydroponics farmer who is unwilling to understand, not ready to understand where their technique is, while in the initial stages God supported them, universe supported them in getting success for their techniques, but how to actually balance that technique to the right health aligned way for the population you want to feed. You have to learn a deeper lesson with relation to hydroponic farming. You have to do the kind of experiment I suggested in the previous video to understand the difference between, if you're not trusting my opinion, then you have to do that experiment to see what I'm talking about as to why something is more nutritious or more beneficial versus some practice that is less nutritious, less beneficial for the population, even if because of demand for the product initially you gained a lot of profits. But if after using the product people realize I'm falling sick from mold poisoning, will eventually, even though initially there was a demand, will eventually the demand fall for your product if the product is not health aligned or health supportive. Same way, if in after hydroponics you don't realize, I will also talk about the other issue with hydroponics in a minute, and not simply with hydroponics, but I want to take a rest because my breath is also going fast, and I'm sure people will think, what is this topic? This is too much topic. But with all hydroponics, rooftop farming, multi-layered farming, there is a nutritional challenge as well that is emerging. It's just that the farmers are not realizing it. And with the Mexican farmer, it is some disease that is manifesting in his field. And in any farming, be it even old traditional farming, when actually disease starts manifesting in your field, the disease is the indicator for the farmer to take a pause, to understand that value of loss that they should face, allow the loss to be faced, allow the loss to teach them something. Because when his, let's say, let's say he has planted, and they have planted in their garden 10 peppers of the same kind, and out of the 10 pepper plants, let's say one plant is completely destroyed with rotten peppers. That plant he should allow to compost and allow to decompose completely and merge with the soil, because whatever disease is going on with that plant, if that information goes to the soil creatures, I can't tell you how I know this, but this is something I learned from some Australian nature website and other intuitive guidances I have received about farming. But the intuitive guidance about farming is, when something is diseased, be it a human, be it a plant, be it an animal, and when it is diseasing in a way that we don't understand what disease is coming up, it could be a new disease that could be developing in it, for which research work will take long time to actually catch up to what disease it is. At that time, you should allow it to just simply go to the ground, because in the ground, and have a ground where you have enough microbes or fungus, bacteria, enough earthworms and other insects to do their work on these diseased plants. And you just bury the plants and allow it to decompose naturally, and then the soil will know. Our mother earth is actually a very organic earth, so our mother earth will know how to translate that information to create a system which will give us something that is health supportive and beneficial in the future, to combat that fungal problem or microbial problem or some cancer like disease that is going on with that plant. So because I don't know, it could be cancer going on, it could be organ damage going on, it could be some fungal infection going on, it could be some other microbial infection going on that I don't even know about. So it could be any of these things, but if you give that information to Mother Earth knows how to create a good plant for you, because this is how it works. This is why, if you understand why certain plants grow in certain climates, that also helps in, when you will see with some farming initiatives, some farmers have started realizing that you have to grow plants that are local to that area, or the local area has the right weather and climatic conditions to grow that plant. Like in India, we have potatoes that came from different country, we have different vegetables that originated from different countries. But if those countries had similar weather conditions like our country, that's when it's a very translatable thing to grow a plant from that country to our country. So if the country was having a tropical climate or warm climate, those vegetables and crops that grew in tropical or warmer climates can be grown in those tropical and warmer climates of Indian regions, and India also has mountains which have colder regions also. So those plants and fruits that grow in cold weather conditions can grow in the cold weather conditions, natural cold weather conditions of India. So like that, we have the biodiversity of both warm climate food that can grow in India as well as cold climate food that can grow in India. Likewise, this is same is true in US also. There are parts of US where cold climate foods will grow well, and there are other parts of US where warm climate food needs to be raised there, right? So that is how you attune to the biodiversity conditions and climatic conditions of the land to make it profitable and healthy and fertile and aligned with nature. So when we are not doing this alignment with nature is when crop failure, and he is possibly the one who is getting these disease in the habanero peppers. He doesn't know what is going wrong with the farming activity, but Mother Earth will know. And then that is how, if you look at globally about different local home remedies that people do when they have flu, when they have some minor ailments, when they are at mild scale disease states, at that time food of that area and locality is very helpful in combating the illness of that area. That's why every region specific food is very important to consume in the right way. This is also something people don't realize, but lavender might be calming and soothing for someone if lavender grows more in, I don't know which conditions lavender grows, but I assume lavender grows and lavender is considered to be a calming and soothing agent, possibly for people who live in colder regions. And now when you're growing, you think lavender is cool and soothing for people living in colder regions. So lavender should likely be grown in colder climates than in climates like California, which is not a colder climate, which is a much warmer climate. So it is possible that lavender needs to grow in a much more cooler area for it to have its wholesome health benefit from it. Similarly, there could be some plants that, unlike in India, we have saffron. Now, saffron is grown usually in the hilly regions of India. But when global warming is happening and temperature changes are happening, the micro degree of changes, or when pollution is there in the environment, all of it impacts the saffron's output as well. And saffron is supposed to be very good. If you drink saffron tea, it is supposed to be healing, and even if you have milder flu-like symptoms, it's supposed to help you heal through it. But when will that saffron not heal you for a milder flu-like condition is when saffron is being grown using farming practices that is not health aligned, or it is grown in a region where health supportive factors for that saffron is not there. So with saffron, 20 years back when I bought some saffron in US, that were likely coming from some Indian hills or some Himalayan region only. But wherever it was originating from, because it was a 25-year less polluted earth, at that time the saffron I bought in the market, when I used to use it in my food, I never found anything allergic in the saffron. But in recent years, when I bought saffron, or I bought saffron which seemed very flavorful, it was very good quality saffron. But when I am putting it in warm water, because it is likely been grown in some pollution related conditions, that saffron now does have the problem of giving me allergies, and is not working on improving the, if you have mild flu, that saffron should have helped with the mild flu, but now the saffron tea is not helping with the mild flu. So while it is doing its flavoring activity, while it is doing its coloring activity, the healing activity that the saffron can do has diminished. I've also seen similar thing happen with eucalyptus oil related plants, neem trees, globally wherever I have gone, and even if I'm not a botanist, and geography wise also my geography knowledge is really bad about which plant grows in which part of the world, but my sensitivity is high, so I can very easily detect when the plant is not doing the function it is meant to do. My connectivity to nature is high, so that's why I understand when I went to a particular area and they had very beautiful looking neem trees. Now though they had very beautiful looking neem trees and they seemed to be very healthy and glossy, when I actually picked up the neem leaves were very brittle in texture, and they were not crumbling, they were not that brittle, but slowly the pollution in their environment is such that the neem leaves are supposed to be very soft leaves, or not very soft, but it has to have a right consistency, and that consistency is lost in the texture of the leaf, as well as when that leaf is being soaked in hot water, the scent it should emanate from it, like if you have a good quality neem plant, the kind of scent, the kind of flavor, the kind of antifungal activity that neem tree will bring into your life will be very different from the antifungal activity it will bring when its harmful health conditions are in its life. And the same neem tree, if it had been growing in an area for 50 years, and in the first 10 years it gave me good quality neem, a neem which was very flavorful neem, a neem as soon as I consumed it had some antifungal, anti-parasitic activity also, because these are all things in Bengal people use neem for anti-parasitic, antifungal, antibacterial activities. That's why in earlier days in India people also used to use neem branches for brushing their teeth, because it had the antifungal, antibacterial activity, it had the scrubbing activity, all of it together made it a very good cleansing agent also. And you will see neem extract is also used in India for making neem based soaps as well. But that same neem tree for 50 years also has been existing in particular part of India. What it used to give in terms of healing properties, in terms of antibacterial, antimicrobial, anti-parasitic properties, in terms of just the flavor and scent that it emanates, whatever activities and benefits it used to give to us, when is that tree going to be able to give that benefit to us? When all the right health supportive conditions are present in its life for it to give the quality health that is necessary to heal us, to give us the oxygen, to give us the all the benefits that neem tree can give. But the moment, if let's say in the 50 years, the first 20 years multiple conditions were there to give it good quality neem related properties, but slowly in the next 30 years, let's say the owner changed, maybe the old owner died, someone else came to take care of the trees and they don't know how to take care of the trees, or the one you are a descendant, you sold your property, or you are a descendant of someone, whoever it is who got the next land, if you do not know or are not aligned with the needs of the tree that you are caretaking, you may not caretake it in a way it is meant to be caretaken. And when you're not caretaking it in a way and you're meant to be caretaken and you don't know it, that's why you were maybe reading books how to caretake it, and you decided that my tree is not giving me good output, or my tree is dying because of pesticides or because of pests, so you started spraying pesticides. But that is now making the output even worse, because what is happening, if you sprayed pesticides or you saw fungal growth, because that was also what surprised me in recent years about neem trees in West Bengal, that fungus growth has started happening, or other microbial growth has started happening in neem trees. Why? Because the basic core functionality of it being a good antifungal, a good antibacterial agent has been destroyed by use of other chemicals on the neem tree itself, as well as other chemicals that are possibly being used on other trees in that same area and locality, which even though they may not be thinking that neem is antifungal, they might not be spraying any fungicides on the neem. or knowing that it's antibacterial, they're not spraying anything to prevent any kind of bacterial or microbial growth on the tree. But what if they are spraying something in the other neighboring trees and other neighboring plants? Then what is happening is, whatever they have sprayed, if they have sprayed fungicides, that fungicide will ruin the soil, will ruin the quality of soil. Because what has happened, when you are spraying a fungicide, yes, you stop the growth of the fungicide, but what else did you do? Where if you have completely stopped the growth of a fungicide, that fungus related information didn't go to the earth. When it didn't go to the earth, Mother Earth can't rectify and make the neem tree or other tree more antifungal or more better than it was before, or can't think of coming up with a new plant with new antifungal properties. So you are stopping the development and evolution of the evolutionary journey of what plants could likely grow in your area. If you had allowed the disease to give you minor level losses, and from that minor level losses, if you understood what you are meant to do with that minor level loss, you give it to the insects, you give it to the birds, you give it to the other animals who know, or who are also part of the ecosystem of the area, not simply in the visible level that we know how birds and plants and insects help with our ecosystem, but there is more to know with how they actually help with our ecosystem. And not more to know, they are involved in a very intuitive manner, where we don't actually have to use too much thinking, but we have to trust also partly that Earth knows how to rectify it. But Earth and other planetary creatures have a role also on rectifying some of the problems that happen due to human activities on Earth. But we have to let them do their job. If we don't let them do the job, that is when death, disease, destruction continues, and even a very good and fruitful and beneficial tree can turn into becoming a health harming experience. Or if not health harming experience, yeah, it can become health harming when, let's say, I have sprayed, like how I mentioned in one of my previous videos, that I ate a lemon which was giving me irritation on the skin. It has become health harming. Why? Because it is continuously in an onslaught of health harm, because of which the beneficial activity that it could have done if good quality water was present in it, it is not able to do. So now when it is releasing its contents in a water that is when its seeds are soaked in a water that is pollution ridden, then the seed is now releasing chemicals to the water which is health harming. And that water, if I now drink, I am getting a allergic response. And if not the seeds, also people use for lemon, the lemon rind can be used for flavoring your cakes. Now your cake will become health harming if you have bad quality water that has raised the lemons, and the lemons are now, a simple plant like a lemon is also releasing toxins which earlier it wouldn't have released when it was in a health safe condition. And why is the toxin release now happening? Now Mother Earth has two ways to balance health. When it is minor level manageable health harm, it manages it by healing and sending healing plants to us. So when manageable level health harm is there, it will give us antifungal to ensure that antifungal plants are there in the environment to ensure that fungus growth doesn't happen. When it is balanced level, manageable level, some bacteria, it will grow some antibacterial plants around that area. But the moment that dynamics has shifted from a manageable level of a problem by even Mother Earth to manage, and Mother Earth and its other planetary creatures are not even there to help Mother Earth manage it, because Mother Earth has her job, soil has its job. Even though soil is an inorganic matter, the soil also has a particular job. That inorganic matter has to have certain level of minerals to give the right health. So soil has its job, Mother Earth has its job, the creatures on Mother Earth have their job. But if half of the creatures of Mother Earth that are necessary to actually sustain a ecosystem in a balanced way are dead or dying or diseased due to human activities, and the humans also are now slowly becoming diseased from consuming those animals and birds and insects that people consume for health purposes, will you get the health benefit or will you actually get health harm now? Because you're consuming diseased food, you're consuming not just diseased food, sometimes that diseased food, the beginning stages of a disease is causing the animal or plant to have an inflammatory response, to have a reaction to the toxin, and that inflammatory response, that reaction to the, like how in my body, when I consume some pesticides or some harmful chemicals, my body is raising the inflammation, giving an allergic response. Same is true of a small lemon, same is true of a seed that is growing in a tree, same is true of a leaf that is growing in a tree, same is true of the scent I want to get from a tree. That scent will not be healthy scent, it will be part of its healthy function might still be going on if certain health supportive, like if it's a eucalyptus plant, I have observed that certain eucalyptus plant which are growing out in the open with some cleaner surroundings are giving beautiful smell of eucalyptus, whereas in that same state just a few kilometers away, if a lot of water pollution, air pollution is going on, earth pollution is going on, the same variety of tree with the same capacity to give beautiful eucalyptus smell now is not able to give the eucalyptus leaf smell, because the tree is completely harmed. So the tree is having the allergic reaction, tree is not getting the nutrition it needs, tree is not getting the safety it needs, tree is not getting the conditions it needs to produce a good scent. So instead the scent is low quality, as well as in some areas where pollutions are extremely high, not simply low quality, the scent might even become health harming as well. So all these things humans have to wake up, that what was successful in the past is not being successful anymore. Even if you raise in that polluted condition, you may still raise 10 trees, but even if you raise 10 trees in that area, they're all going to be poor quality trees, giving you poor quality content from that land, because the land is abused. If you, like a human, when you abuse a woman for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, a woman who has been abused for 30 years or 40 years will, and like let's say both women are, there are two women, one woman got abused for 10 years, another woman got abused for 40 years, both were abused by the same type of man, and both were also similar type of women. Both of them after being abused will show the same response, but the degree of response in a woman who has been abused in 10 years will be less than the degree of abuse of a woman who has been abused for 40 years. And then when you want to heal both these women also, the one who was abused for 40 years will need much more support, much more care, much more understanding, much more mindfulness and careful treatment to heal from the abuse, versus the woman who was abused for only 10 years. Same way with a tree. Now if you have two trees and the one which is getting abused more or has more health unsupportive factors in its area, the degree of health problems it will show up when you consume anything from that tree. When you even want to inhale simple oxygen from that tree, you will not get the right output only from a tree when you didn't give to the tree what it needs in order to for it to give you a good output. Does that make sense? And this is why, and in hydroponics, now coming back to the hydroponics, this is why you have to allow some destruction, some disease to happen, and when that destruction happens, when that disease happens, it causes the whole thing that is destroying that ecosystem either to completely stop if there are 100 things going wrong in that environment which humans are not able to stop, humans are not able to realize, then complete natural disaster or destruction of a tree will happen. Like if it is in a small plant, in a small plantation, 2-3 plants will die. In order for you to wake up to what is wrong with the land, what conditions of soil, air, water you need to change in order for this disease to not occur again. That is the lesson you have to learn when only few plants are dying. But when large scale plants are dying, that means large scale efforts are going on in that land that are not health supportive. And when a whole region ends up not only dying, but like when some forest fires are happening, or when some earthquake is happening or floods are happening, that is where multi-layered, thousands of people, 1,000 degrees of problems are there that if not solved, and because the capacity to solve is also not possible there, that's where it ends up with these disasters or mass scale diseases. And in case of now the hydroponics, there the mold problem is not the only problem. There's actually also nutritional deficiency problem with the hydroponic plants, but that nutritional deficiency problem you will not understand initially because of the fact that, let's say you are doing hydroponics and there is a shortage in the market. You're doing hydroponics of lettuce and there is a shortage in the, I don't know if lettuce can be done hydroponically, let's say kale, because I know kale is done hydroponically. I found spinach to be done with using hydroponics. So let's say you are growing kale and spinach in your hydroponic garden. Now initially, because there's a shortage in spinach in my area, I will buy from you continuously because there is no other source of spinach. So I'll continue buying from your hydroponic source, right? But if that hydroponic has mold related health issues will show up in my body. If that spinach doesn't have mold, because maybe you're not doing completely closed condition hydroponics, you are giving it sunlight and good ventilation, so there is no mold contamination there. But if that spinach is just by the fact that it didn't get raised in soil conditions, it will have some nutritional deficiency which we don't realize, but we initially when we are consuming the spinach in the initial years of our consumption, because all of us has some reserve minerals in our body when we are healthy. So when I am at the fittest state of my health, and not just when I am at the fittest state, but if I was lucky enough to consume a lot of healthy food throughout my childhood, I will not get any nutritional deficiency because 30-40 years I have consumed good food. So my nutritional levels, if there are two Indians, you take two Indians with the same weight, same height, everything very same, and same gender and everything, and if you take one Indian who has borderline nutritional deficiency going on, like they're still in the normal range, but their normal range is towards the deficiency range. Like if there is 10 to 20 of something I need to have in my blood, I have only 10 or 11 in my blood. Whereas the other person who has eaten, and I have 10 because throughout my life I have lived in a home life where I have consumed less nutritious food all my life. I got some nutritious food, but they were not high quality food, because of which that I have been on a low grade near nutritional deficiency level, but not yet reached the deficiency level according to the parameters set of that deficiency. Whereas another person who has been eating, who's richer than me or has good source of food that was coming to their homes, they consume that same food that I was consuming. Our nutrition was also very similar, but now that they have got more of the nutrition rich food in their environment, they might be, instead of the me being at the 10 range, they might be at closer to the 20 range. Now both of us, if both of us now have only hydroponic based spinach that can come in the that is going to fulfill our nutritional deficiency, if the hydroponic based food has some nutritional elements that are missing from it, who is going to show up the signs and symptoms of the nutritional challenge related to the hydroponic farming? The person who has the near deficiency level normal nutrition level. So if I am getting a iron deficiency, when I start consuming now hydroponics food for a few months or a few years, and it is not giving me the adequate iron that a normal soil rich lettuce or soil rich green vegetable would give, I will immediately start showing the deficiency because I was already towards the lower range of the deficiency. Whereas the person who is not at the lower range of the deficiency, that person will take a long time to show that. Similarly with vitamin D or any other nutritional challenge that is there in the product you're selling, while quantity wise you got a lot of products, if the product is not right quality, the impact of it will show up in that person first who is at the near deficiency level of that nutritional challenge. So again, and in this man and his wife, it will happen possibly in the future. While they were Punjabis and they ate a lot of vitamin D rich food in the past, so they and might be maybe one of them was raised in a farming land, so many years they had good access to vitamin D based food. So their body has reserve of vitamin D. They will not show the vitamin D deficiency immediately. But if the wife or a servant who lives with them who also eats the same food, if all of them and the servant didn't have good health supportive conditions in his life, he was already nutritionally challenged, then what will happen? The servant might end up after consuming the hydroponics with a nutritional deficiency based on what nutrition is not present in the hydroponics, and it will show up first in the servant, then maybe in the wife, then maybe in the husband who had maybe the most health supportive conditions. So does that make sense? Similarly, I will make a new video about multi-layer farming because this video again has gone over an hour, but something similar also happens with multi-layer farming. And hopefully this was informative, and if people have any questions or need clarity in any of the topics I'm discussing here, please drop a comment and question. Thank you very much.